Are you a Warlock main jealous of the Gyre Falcons? Do you want to watch every enemy go up in a volatile explosion? Do you wish to see the satisfaction of a boss getting melted by your volatile LMG? Then fear not, this Warlock build is for you. Now, take note, this build does not simply have to be a Gyre Falcons on Warlock. This is a very strong Warlock build that can be used for most content in the game. As this build is so strong, it can have up to a 77% damage reduction. Along with this, you're able to get up to a 58% damage increase by using some mods and the weaken debuff, and we can get this number much higher with an empowering buff like well. Now, huge shout out to Corp Projects for providing all the numbers for this video. Now, let's get straight into this build. And of course, as you can see now, this build is a Nothing Manacles build. The Nothing Manacles are a very strong exotic in the game, and they are highly slept on. Many people would just default to contraverse holds without giving it a second thought. Today, I hope to change your perspective on this. Now, let's get into some details about this build. Starting out with the subclass Voidwalker, we're going to be using the Vortex Nova Bomb. The reason for this is, well, obviously because Cataclysmic, the Slova Bomb, it tends to block teammates' DPS shots during damage phases. Along with the recent buff to Vortex where it makes it travel faster, this makes it a serious contender in damage phases. Going into the aspects for this build. Starting off, we have Feed the Void. Feed the Void is a very strong aspect for Warlock as it gives you Devour on an ability kill. Now, when it says abilities, it does not matter whether it's your grenade or your melee. It can even be the Old God, which, next up, we have Child of the Old God. This is going to be your second aspect. Now, the reason why we're using Child of the Old Gods over Chaos Accelerant is because while wearing Nothing Manacles, you basically get the same effect as Chaos Accelerant without having to charge up your grenade. Now, with Child of the Old Gods, you have two choices here. You can either go for a Healing Rift, which when the Old God sticks to a target, it'll give you grenade and melee energy, or you can go with an Empowering Rift, which basically gives you health while it is on a target. Either way, the Child of the Old God will still apply a weaken debuff to any target it is stuck to. Now obviously that choice is up to you. The grenade you should be running with this build is going to be scatter grenades, as that is what is benefited from Nothing Manacles. Next up, we'll be going into the fragments. Starting off with our first fragment, we have Echo of Undermining. Echo of Undermining applies a weaken to an enemy that is tagged by your grenades. This leaves any target that is not immediately killed by your scatter grenade with a 15% debuff, allowing you to kill that enemy much easier and faster. Next up, we have the fragment called Echo of Instability. This is the main fragment that you will need for this build to work. It basically states that defeating a target with your grenade grants volatile rounds to your void weapon. This is going to be the easiest way for a Warlock to gain volatile rounds. Next fragment we have up is going to be Echo of Expulsion. This fragment states that void ability final blows causes targets to explode. Now, this fragment can be changed out for any other fragment. This is more of an optional one. The only reason I'm going with it is because it gives you a plus 10 intellect. Please note that Echo Persistence does not extend your duration of Volatile, so please do not replace this with Echo of Persistence. Next fragment we have up, Echo of Reprisal. Echo of Reprisal states that final blows when surrounded by combatants grant super energy. Pairing this fragment with certain mods allows you to gain your super back super fast. Now, let's get into the actual armor pieces of this build. Now, you can take note that most of your armor pieces do not have to worry about armor affinity, except for your helmet. This is the most important piece of this build. You need to have this as a solar so you can run Ashes the asset. This helmet solar mod allows you to get super energy on grenade kills. This will aid you in getting your super back faster in order to throw out more Nova Bombs. Now, starting out with the overall inspection, the stat distribution on this is going to be leaning towards resilience and discipline. Recov is not a must-have in this build, but is very nice to have along with discipline and resil. And the main reason for this is because Devour will be constantly giving you healing on kills. Now, the mod placement on a lot of these armor pieces are not going to be too picky. You can place a lot of these wherever you want. Starting out with the first combat mod, we are going to be looking at Font of Might, as this gives you a free damage buff for simply picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass type. Next up, we have the Font of Wisdom. The Font of Wisdom essentially just gives you 100% intellect for a small period of time, essentially meaning that you can run very low intellect while focusing on your other 3 stats, resilience, recov, and discipline. Now, this next slot can be replaced between 2 things, either Reaping Wellmaker and or Seeking Wells. Reaping Wellmakers basically allows you to just place down your rift, kill an enemy, and you get a well for free. Or your next option is going to be Seeking Wells. This is going to be useful for creating wells and then not having to run over to them as they will track to you. Next mod we have up is going to be Well of Tenacity. Well of Tenacity basically gives you a 40% damage reduction for picking up a void elemental well. Lastly, since we are going to be throwing lots of grenades with this build, we are running Elemental Ordnance, which lets you get a elemental well of your matching subclass for getting a grenade kill. So now that we're done with the combat mods, I'm going to be going over each individual piece and what you can be running. Starting off with the helmet, you should be running Ashes to Assets with your solar helmet, as this will allow you to get your super energy back much faster. Next up, for your arms, you can be really running anything here, as nothing on arms will be too vital to the success of your build. One thing I recommend you can run is either Fastball or Impact Induction, as Impact Induction basically makes it so you get your grenades faster for simply dealing damage with your melee, or Fastball in order to throw your grenades farther. Next up is going to be your chest piece. Now this is going to be one of the more important pieces of this, as if you have an Artifice armor, you'll be able to get up to a 36.25% damage decrease with 2 elemental resist and 1 effect resist. Otherwise, with 1 elemental resist and 1 effect resist, you will only be able to get to a 27.75 damage resist. Now keep in mind, this will not be an overall resist, more of a you will be resistant to a certain type of attack. Now onto legs. Nothing here is going to be too importantly vital to your success with this build, so you can run whatever you want. Next up, we have the Bond. For the Bond, I recommend having Monochromatic Maestro, as it'll give you a 10% increase to your weapon damage for hitting a grenade, and or giving 10% increased damage to your grenades for hitting weapon damage. Now, you can also pair this up with the Basilisk mod, which basically makes it so your void grenades will cause overload champions to be stunned. And overall, I think this sums up the entirety of the armor. So, Ashes to Assets is recommended for the helmet. Fastball or Impact Induction is recommended for Nothing Manacles. You can run Resist mods for your chest piece, Scavengers for your legs, Monochromatic, and Basilisk for your Bond. Now with everything laid out, you should be able to see where the potential of this build could go. From its already strong amplification buffs, stacking with things like debuffs and empowering buffs, you're able to output some high damage. Now stack that with its damage reductions, for example, Well of Tenacity and your 100 resilience, you should be able to tank a lot of things while also getting healed from things like Devour. Now, I didn't want to go over weapons specifically in this video because it would make it way too long. There are certain things like the LMG that hunters tend to use with Gyre, and I would also pair this with other weapons that have things like Adrenaline Junkie, Demo, and or Repulsor Brace to make this much stronger. Now, I just want to say thank you all for watching this video. I hope I changed at least one of your minds to use Nothing Manacles over the Contraverse hold, or at least try it out. If you guys like this video, please leave a comment, like, subscribe. That would be very appreciated. Also, tell me how I can improve in the future. Thank you. I hope you guys have a very good rest of